Okay, Madam Chair, please take it away.
All right, welcome to the OSEC committee meeting for February 22nd. This meeting is compliant with the Ralph M. Brown Act as amended by California Assembly Bill number 361, effective September 16th, 2021, providing for a public health emergency exception to the standard teleconferencing rules required by the Brown Act. The purpose of this is to provide a safe environment for the public, staff, and committee members while allowing for public participation. Accordingly, the public may observe committee meetings and or address the committee using remote public comment options or have the option to attend committee meetings in person. Please be advised that committee members may continue to participate in the meeting remotely. The committee may take action on any item listed in the agenda. To address the committee in person at 50 Park Place, Brisbane, CA 94005, Community Meeting Room. Masks are no longer required, but are highly recommended in accordance with the California Department of Health guidelines. To maintain public health and safety, please do not attend in person if you are experiencing symptoms associated with COVID-19 or respiratory illness. Remote participation. Members of the public may observe or participate in the committee meetings by logging into the Zoom webinar listed below. Committee meetings can also be viewed live and or on demand via the city's YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/BrisbaneCA, or on Comcast channel 27. Archived videos can be replayed on the city's website, brisbaneca.org/meetings. Please be advised that if there are technological difficulties, the meeting will nevertheless continue. The agenda materials may be viewed online at brisbaneca.org at least 24 hours prior to a special meeting and at least 72 hours prior to a regular meeting. Remote public comment. Meeting participants are encouraged to submit public comments in writing in advance of the meeting. Aside from commenting while in the Zoom meeting, the following email will also be monitored during the meeting, and public comments received will be read into the record during oral communications or during an item. Email at atherton@brisbaneca.org. Join the meeting at brisbaneca.org/OSEC-Zoom. Meeting ID 976-4295-0160, and the call-in number is 669-900-9128. Special assistant. If you need special assistance to participate in this meeting, please contact Adrian Etherton at atherton@brisbaneca.org or 415-508-2118. Notification in advance of the meeting will enable the city to make reasonable arrangements to ensure accessibility to this meeting. And I call this meeting to order. Let's start this roll call. Glenn Fieldman.
Present.
Mary Rogers.
Present.
Barbara Ebel. Barbara Ebel, you're muted.
Present.
Aaron Becker.
Present.
Jason Noonan.
Present.
Shauna Kelmes here. All right. Let us adopt the agenda.
I don't think you
I'm
called
sorry.
me.
You didn't call me either.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Michelle.
Michelle Salmons
Here.
and Mary Rogers. I don't know, you disappeared.
You called my name, but I'm here again.
Okay. There's too many people here, or more than usual. Sorry about that. I think I have everybody now.
I move to adopt the agenda.
A
Second.
second.
Thank you. The agenda is adopted. Are there any announcements
We do need a roll call vote.
to adopt the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Michelle Salmon.
Here.
We're adopting agendas now. Glenn Fieldman.
Yes.
Mary Rogers.
Yes.
Barbara Evil.
Aye.
Aaron Becker.
Aye.
Jason Noonan.
Present. I mean, yes. Yes.
Don McKelvey says yes too. All right, now we can move on to announcements.
I have one.
Excellent, Glenn Feldman.
So last year, the committee very kindly supported SB 1173, which calls on the California State Public Employee Pension Funds to divest themselves from fossil fuels. That bill got all the way through the Senate, was killed in the Assembly by one committee member, a committee chair who refused to have it heard. That's how these things work, unfortunately. The bill is going to be reintroduced this year. Well, has been reintroduced this year. Sorry, it's SB 252. And I will be asking the committee to recommend once again that the city pass a resolution in support. I'm not sure when that will happen, but sometime in the next couple of months. That was it.
Fun. Anyone else? All right. Let's move on to oral communications. Is there anything on your end, Adrian?
I will just note for the record that we had a response to our federal climate emergency declaration letter that was received from the Biden administration, which was attached to your packet. I have not received any further communications.
Business. Dark skies.
Okay. Well, first, let me just give a warm welcome to our council liaisons. Thank you for joining us. We have two items to discuss with you this evening. The first is the dark skies certification. So there was a staff report for this item attached to the packet. I won't belabor all of the details that were included there, but did want to kind of provide a high-level overview. Essentially, the OSEC has had a desire to address dark skies and outdoor lighting in the evenings in Brisbane for some time, and formed a subcommittee a number of years ago that had been starting to work on that. One of their goals was to achieve dark skies certification. And as we got further through that process, it became aware to staff that some of the aspects of certification may be problematic. We've discussed with the subcommittee and actually discussed at OSEC last month the to certify or not to certify question. Staff's recommendation is that we believe we can move forward more quickly with a ordinance that achieves a number of the aspects of a very strong dark skies ordinance, but stops short of being fully certifiable. That would be more customized to Brisbane. And one of the main concerns at the staff level is the number of resources that would be required to meet all of those requirements for certification, as well as the demand that it would put on prospective applicants, permit applicants. So at our OSEC meeting last month, we discussed this, and I think the prevailing opinion from OSEC was that there was a desire to move forward more quickly with something that was customized to Brisbane, but knowing that we had the council liaisons coming this month, I still wanted to go ahead and make sure that had the policy direction support from council. So I will, at this point, I think just check with my fellow staff members if anybody had anything that they wanted to add to that background, and then perhaps we can hear from others. Julia or Rachel or anyone?
Nothing for me.
It looks like Barbara Evil has her hand up.
Yeah, I think that what you said wasn't quite true, at least not from my understanding or memory of the last meeting. My understanding and memory of the last meeting was that the committee wanted to move forward with a dark skies compliant ordinance, but that we also wanted to move forward quickly. I think you have kind of phrased it as an either or situation, and I don't think that's representative of the committee's feelings.
Michelle,
So I have a question, if I may.
go ahead.
When you say dark skies compliant or dark skies certifiable, those are two different things, correct?
In
Adrian,
this case, I use them somewhat interchangeably, but Rachel actually could probably be more detailed on this matter because she has been doing a lot of the research on the international dark sky requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So basically, there's an organization called the International Dark Skies Association, and they offer a community certification to legally organized places, such as cities or counties that meet a number of requirements. They have to adopt a particular lighting code that meets certain requirements. And then there are also the applicant will need to demonstrate that the community is broadly supportive and that there are a number of sort of events or monitoring taking place outside of that. But that's not to say that a dark skies ordinance couldn't be passed that substantially addresses light pollution. It's just that in order to then go before this body and receive certification, it would need to meet certain requirements. But there are a number of places in the United States that have dark sky lighting codes that aren't necessarily dark sky certified. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. That does answer my question. Thank you.
Does that clarify things for you, Barbara, or?
I think Michelle was next, but I wasn't looking for clarification on that issue. I'm quite well aware of.
Okay. I just wanted to see if you were happy. All right, Michelle.
My recollection of our last meeting is more in line with Barbara's narrative, which was the committee wanted to strive for a dark skies certification compliant ordinance, but subject to us having guidance from our liaisons because of the cost and difficulty for city staff to support a dark skies compliant ordinance. And I believe that's where we left it, with the committee wanting to move forward as fast as we can with a dark skies compliant ordinance if we had the support of the council. And if we did not, then we would back down and do a dark skies ordinance as close as possible to a dark skies compliant ordinance. Am I correct in summarizing that for the committee? If not, please say so.
Yeah, I want to support that, and I will add something when everybody else has followed up.
Glenn?
I think Colleen is next.
Okay, Colleen.
You're on mute, Colleen.
Glenn, go ahead. I'll wait because I have a kind of an overall question. I'd like to hear your.
So I would like to say that I disagree with my fellow committee members about seeking certification. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult for Brisbane to do that. And I also question, in some ways, the value of it, given that we are surrounded by non-compliant, non-dark skies, very large light emitters. I think we should go as quickly as possible, and I think that's incompatible with a certification compliant ordinance. The reason I think we should go as quickly as we can is that I think we will have the best luck in reducing light pollution by preventing the installation of new lights. If we wait another year, and at the pace that we go in town, and with all the public input there will be, and pushback about stars and things like that, I think it could easily be another year, during which time lots more people and businesses will install nasty LED lights. And that means more enforcement after the fact. It's going to cost people money if they have to then take those out and shade them or whatever they're going to do. So I honestly don't remember what the sense of the committee was. The idea of certification is nice. I was one of the people many years ago that suggested that we work on dark skies in Brisbane. It's very important to me, but I think this is a case where the perfect may well end up being the enemy of the good. So I just wanted to say that there is, I think, disagreement among the committee members about what we should do. And I wanted to state the sort of, I guess, opposing position with all due respect to my fellow members.
Glenn.
Am I up next? You're really quiet, Shauna.
Oh, sorry. I'm not sure who's next. Are you ready to speak on this, Colleen, or shall I move to Jason?
Please keep going through your committee members, and then I'll ask the question. I'd like to hear what everyone has to say. Thank you.
I'll come back to you, Barbara, after everybody else has said something. Jason.
Hey, everybody, how are you? Same thing. A lot of respect and affection for my fellow committee members, but I'm right there with Glenn with what she said. My sense when we left it, that I remembered, I was the one that used the phrase, the perfect is the enemy of the good, that we were all going to say, yes, let's get a good ordinance together, not necessarily perfect, and not get bogged down in certification with the expense and the time. I think there's only so dark we're going to be able to get with the oil refinery and the train and all that stuff. So that's not my sense. And, I'm not going to make a big stink about it, but I would be in the Glenn camp that I think we said we'd move on with a good, but not perfect thing.
Thank you, Jason. Mary.
I think there was a few folks before me.
Let's go ahead.
My comments are very quick.
Okay.
I recall at the last meeting we discussed this. I think the team was torn between being certified and then not being certified, and recognizing that not going through the certification process would save a lot of time, and recognizing that there was a lot of process behind that would require staff time as well, which would be a big expense. And recognizing that we could do, Brisbane specific ordinance that would speed up the process. But I think bottom line, we wanted to run that by our liaisons to see how they feel about it, and then take it from there. That's my memory. So thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna call Aaron first, and then I'll get to you, Karen. I wanted to hear from all of the members first, and then staff. So Aaron.
Yeah, so I'm one of the 3 members of the Dark Skies Committee, and I'm also the newest member on the committee. And this is honestly the hardest subcommittee that I've been on. I think since we have council liaison here, I think the question of whether or not to go for dark skies certification isn't the only question we should get your input on. I think it's also important to get your appetite on how much staff support and engagement you guys envision from a dark skies ordinance, because there's a lot of different things on the permit checking, compliance, enforcement. It could be a lot of staff work. And I feel like, there's a struggle between this ordinance and staff support. And it's not going to pass you guys without staff support, but I feel like we also need to hear from you what resources the city would put towards staff supporting the ordinance. That's it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, quickly, Karen.
You're on mute, Karen.
Thank you. Not to talk about a recollection, but I just went back and looked at the minutes, and what was noted, if they are correct, is the committee reached a general consensus that certification is not the goal, but instead a strong, locally appropriate ordinance that gets as close to certifiable as possible while still being achievable for staff to implement. And this group wished to discuss with the council liaisons at the next meeting.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump in. Did we forget to adopt the minute or approve the minutes?
We put them later just so that we could work
Okay.
with the liaisons and not have them sit through those steps.
Thank you.
That's, the minutes are exactly what I remembered. That's exactly how I remembered it. It was not that we were going to get certified, but it'd be nice, but we were going to move forward.
That was my recollection as well. I'm going to pass it back to Barbara at this point.
Okay. So maybe we shouldn't have gone down this road because 3 people remember it differently and 4 people remember it the other way. And really it doesn't matter because the important thing is to get council's direction.
Yes.
One of the problems we had was that the Malibu ordinance that was put out there by staff is very much a peanut butter ordinance. It doesn't have a lot of space for customization for Brisbane specific. I think if we actually went down that road, we'd have a much less locally specific ordinance. So I think if the council is wanting something that's very specific to Brisbane, I think that Malibu is going in the opposite direction of that. We already, I think, can demonstrate good community support. I mean, with the exception of one person, everything that's been put up on Facebook by other people, like Christine has posted some stuff, and I think Tony's posted stuff about dark skies, has been overwhelmingly positive. And I think, staff seems very concerned or has repeatedly raised the concern about ongoing community education. I think OSEC can add something to our booth at Community Day in the Park. And then we have to do one other thing. I think a lot of these things are very conquerable. I actually went through and made a list of everything today, but I think that's too long for here. Yes, there will be a need for an additional staff time. But I was thinking really hard about that today. And I was thinking that if that is the concern, then we write my suggestion, and I'm just going to put that there for everybody's digestion, is that we write a dark skies compliance ordinance and pass it today. And that some of the more troublesome things, burdensome things for staff, we phase those in. We have up to a 10-year phase in, according to the IDC. So we can phase in some of those I don't think enforcement's actually going to be that bad, but because other cities I've looked into how they do it, and it actually doesn't seem all that bad. But the plan checking, I think, is going to be a real problem. So I think we can kind of have both, honestly. And I think there's a real important reason to write a dark skies compliant ordinance, and that is that it is science-based, and nobody on this committee and nobody at staff is a certified lighting engineer. So when we make compromises, we don't always know the impact of those compromises. So I think that's part of the reason that the 3 of us are much more interested in having something that's actually compliant, whether or not we seek certification, which, is a whole nother process and a whole nother cost and a whole nother hurdle. But if we write it to be compliant, then we are adhering to the science as it stands. I think I think that's the basics of what I felt. I mean, I don't feel like these two things are incompatible. I think that's, yeah. All right, I'm gonna set it there for the moment. Thanks.
Thank you, Barbara. And I think Glenn had one more comment.
Yeah, actually, it's a question for members of the committee. And that is, Barbara, especially, you mentioned on Facebook that people have been very supportive, but of what have they been supportive? Do they know, for example, that Christmas stars might be threatened? And the second point I have along that line is that a lot of the most troublesome lighting in this city is commercial. And I find it hard to imagine that they've been talking about this on Facebook. So, you know, I think there is probably a lot of support in the Brisbane community for a dark skies ordinance of some sort. But, you know, how deeply have these supporters dug into the certification requirements, the threat to the Christmas stars, the requirements that will be imposed on commercial people? And I emphatically think that commercial people ought to be subject to requirements. I mean, that is part of the point. But how much pushback do we want to get, and how long do we want to spend debating a certification compliant ordinance?
Can I answer that? I think the point of having it both ways is to pass something quickly, so that we don't have new lights coming in. And then, you know, if we have a long phase in, that has really made the pill go down much easier in other communities. Sorry, my lights just turned off. So I think that having, you know, a long phase in for the commercial to remediate existing lights is going to make that. But yes, you're right. The commercial businesses are not in large participating on Facebook. It's true that the specifics have not been put out there into the public. I think that it's too early to do that because we don't even quite have a consensus on what we're putting out there. But I think, and you know, there's always going to be people who checked when you get down to the nitty-gritty. There's always somebody who doesn't like something. And I think that that's not a reason to back down. I think it's a reason to listen and incorporate feedback because our community has a lot of really good ideas. But that's exactly what writing a local detailed Brisbane ordinance is about.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Did you have a bit of further rebuttal there, Michelle, before we go on to Colleen?
Yeah, I do. Why I made my comments earlier was that I wanted the characterization to accurately reflect more what I remembered, which was if we could do a dark skies compliant ordinance, we wanted to. But I was the first one who said speed is of the essence in that regard on the committee, and was convinced kind of otherwise by, you know, Aaron and Barbara that we should, if we can. But I've been asking for council direction since September. And so at this point, you tell us, because we work for you as well as the city of Brisbane, but we work for the council. That's what it boils down to. If you're a member of OSEC, we're appointed by the council to do the work that you want us to do. So at this point, I want to hear what both of you have to say, and we will do it to the best of our ability, whatever it is that you direct us to do, which I have been asking for months. I'm tired of stalling this out. I want it done, and done to the highest level that we can achieve, no matter what, the highest level that we can achieve and enforce and do. Okay, that's where I'm at, and that's where I've been at all along. I have waited 12 years for this to happen. So let's do it. Whatever it is, let's get it done. I'm tired of seeing, you know, the Crocker Industrial Park look like Close Encounters of the Third Kind every night when I come home. Okay, I am tired of, you know, seeing Hillary Hill lit up like a parking lot at night now. I am tired of having stray lights, everywhere. It just needs to get done, and we need to push it forward. I want it to be as compliant as possible. That's my opinion.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. We appreciate your deep passion about the subject. All right, so I'm going to turn this over to our liaisons. I think starting with Colleen, and then we'll follow up with Terry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is almost really difficult on where to start. So I'll preface it by saying I'm very familiar with IDA. I'm a member. I'm a big proponent of dark skies. That being said, I want to thank all of you for taking your repeated time, many meetings. Those of you who've been on this committee, this is a lot of work. Staff as well. I understand the challenge. Thinking about achieving certification seems difficult, very ambitious, not impossible, but this request was never meant to be onerous, either for the committee or for staff. And being a small city with limited staff, with limited time, limited money, we have to take all of that into consideration. So that being said, your comments have been really valuable. I really appreciate it. I would say that one of the challenges with this is education, because there's a lot of people that, like I do, you watch all those commercials about those LED lights, you got to light up the sky, you drive around town, and probably every week I see a new LED light, and I'm a bit horrified, because if you follow IDA news releases, it's almost over the past 10 years, you can see sometimes 10% a year, the light increases. It's just, it's mind-boggling when you look at it that way. And most people will say, why do you need a dark skies ordinance or any kind of initiative? Because they say, why would you try to tell me what to do with that? They don't realize the health implications. They don't realize the effect on the environment and animals. So this is a big uphill climb in terms of education. People are very preoccupied with a lot of things in their lives right now. And in some ways they might say, I don't care about this. I don't even want to deal with it. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do something. And I believe we should. So I would make a suggestion here, just based on everything I've heard. In terms of first step, there's been talk about a Brisbane ordinance rather than trying to get certification. You could always seek certification later on, but the question is, how much could we do now? And that really kind of falls on staff. And I've not heard what the particulars would be in terms of if there was a Brisbane ordinance, if you've gone over a list of requirements that have been suggested. And so what I would say is commercial right now is probably the place that I would place the most impact on. I would agree with Glenn Fieldman that catching this on installation is really a place to do it, because people are going to scream about having to change lights out, even on commercial properties. And yet we don't want to make this to where we're accused of stalling plans because of just the preponderance of plan checking. So first of all, I think that there has to be input from planning. Julia Ayers is here tonight. I don't know if you want to go through all the details, but that could be circled back at another meeting that you have with a list of what are practical ways that this could be implemented without creating an enormous burden on new plants. There's going to be a lot of development, more development on Sierra Point, and of course the Baylands, the quarry. Also on residential, I think the best place to start there, because this is about getting community buy-in and acceptance. And you want the community to also feel like they want the commercial sector to get on board. I would say that starting with residential in a very concerted education campaign, and I would make it a campaign, or you want to call it a campaign or an initiative. And what oftentimes is the problem with things like that is if you say, well, there's day in the park and we can set up a table. That happens, you get an article in the Star, okay, you get something in the Blast on a Friday, and go down the road a couple months and it's all forgotten. And then you try to stir up the interest again and everybody's moved on. So I think if this was to be a campaign or an initiative, it has to have a plan. It has to have some regularity to where it's constantly seen. It has a visibility. It has some sort of goals. And maybe that's people signing pledges. I don't know if that's putting up a sign that I'm dark skies compliant or that I care about dark skies. I don't know what kind of ideas you might have on that, but I would try to not push enforcement on residential yet. I would go after the commercial first with an idea that residential could be brought in. We don't have as much residential construction. We have lots of commercial construction, and those are the really big lights. I would also say that something that has to be included with this is a self-assessment on city light standards. Because I was at Sierra Point last night and the light out there is just unbelievably bright. And I don't know that we need that level of brightness out there. So we can't ask people to comply or commercial properties to comply if we are just as guilty of the same. I would say on residential, catching people, maybe when they come in to do permits on other things, and handing them an informational sheet, which IDA has that website with all kinds of lighting resources, is a place to start. Start giving people information so that if they go and have a need to replace a fixture, they're not just going to Home Depot and Lowe's and picking what's off the shelf, but they know why it's important. Beyond that, I think it would be helpful to hear a little bit more from staff about what would be involved if we had even a minimal ordinance to start. And even if it was just commercial. And then I would actually like to hear from my colleague, Terry O'Connell. And then I would like to hear what the rest of your committee thinks about that. And this could all lead to, at some point, you could re-examine whether there's been enough community buy-in to seek certification. That could be a couple years out.
Yeah.
But you could always work towards that goal. And then you might want to start on residential as residential construction picks up. But it has to begin somewhere. And I applaud all your efforts. And certainly you've all been made more aware. I'm sure you've talked to other people who've been made more aware. Our staff is more aware. So this has all been progress. I don't want you to see this as just having been a waste of time or a dead end, because I don't think that's the case. And I think something needs to happen in the immediate, but what you're going to have to decide tonight is how far it can go. And you're going to need to hear from staff on that as well. What is possible? So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Colleen. All right. Terry is next.
Great, thank you. I truly believe in the Dark Skies program. And, do we have any information on how many cities in the US have been certified with the International Dark Skies?
Only 2 in California.
Okay.
I can give some more information about that. There is a short list that's published on the International Dark Sky Association website. But yes, Michelle is right. There are at this point only 2 communities in California that have been certified. They're both situated in unincorporated San Diego County, and they achieved certification with the same ordinance. Both of them are also in close proximity to Anza Borrego State Desert Park, which has 12 wilderness areas.
Okay, thank you.
I have something I'd like to add to that. I was recently reading and shared an article about a small town in Scotland, which is literally half the size of Brisbane, which is IDA certified. So it is possible for small communities to achieve certification. Although I think we're not talking about achieving certification, we're talking about writing a certifiable ordinance, which is different. So, I mean, I think we almost have an advantage because we know our neighbors and we can talk to our neighbors and we go door to door and it becomes a real community spirit issue. So I think just because there aren't that many doesn't mean that we have to count ourselves out.
I wasn't trying to make that point. I was
No,
just
no,
asking the question.
I
was just asking the question.
Yeah.
So when staff mentioned that there would be pressure on permittee and applicants, don't we source out a lot of our plan check issues? And so if we were to have something for new applicants, wouldn't that be fairly easy to put those parameters into our zoning codes so that when it came before plan check, it would be checking off those boxes? Or would it truly be an issue for applicants to be compliant with whatever our new codes would be?
Sure, I'm happy to give a perspective on both building and planning, plan check process. So any lighting regulations that we do end up adopting, dark sky certified or otherwise, they are going to impose new requirements on applicants, both residential and commercial. There will be more information that they need to show in their application, and there will be, you know, to a certain level, just a lot more work that goes into the materials they provide to us. And then on the plan checkers side, obviously we will need to train our third-party building plan checkers and our, you know, if there's zoning related requirements as well, our planners who provide the zoning plan check as well. So we know that regardless of whether we're in dark sky certified ordinance or a customized Brisbane specific ordinance, we're going to have new training and knowledge that's going to have to be invested in our plan checkers regardless.
Well,
and we know that applicants.
When you say a lot more information, you mean with lighting specifics and
Yes.
where the casting of the light would be?
Right. So like a
and
photometric analysis, for example, which is something that's prepared by professional, folks who are licensed to prepare such plans. That's a new requirement that doesn't currently exist.
And is photometric only if we try to get a dark sky certification?
It's likely we'd require photometrics for the Brisbane customizable ordinance, which I think Adrian and Rachel can give you more information on that from staff's perspective. But I think the difference is the scale and scope of projects that staff prefers to make those more stringent requirements apply to. We had, reviewed the requirements for a dark skies certified ordinance, and the scale and scope of projects was really broad. It was a big net. And that's where kind of we identified some concern with, projects that were typically smaller in scale would have requirements that were fairly, onerous, which again, that's not a bad thing. It's just something that typically would not require as much supporting documentation on the part of applicants, would now require more supporting documentation and perhaps more professional plans that wouldn't otherwise be required. So I don't think staff is trying to, like I said, we know and we are prepared to invest more training that goes along with any kind of lighting ordinance that we end up adopting. It's again, we're just concerned with there's that much more want to say burdensome of requirements that apply with the dark skies fully compliant ordinance versus where we think we could have a compromise that hits those big players, like you guys were mentioning, the commercial properties that can get, 95 or 99% of the nuisance lighting under control there without catching those kind of smaller fish in the same net.
Thank you. So I meant to start this conversation out with this comment that, well, we are the liaison to the OSAC. We cannot speak for the entire council. And so anything that comes is going to need to go before the entire council before it can really move forward. And I'm sure staff and OSAC is aware of that. And one of the things that I see with lighting nowadays is we can have an LED light that we purchase that we can leave on 24/7 and use the same amount of power that we used to do with incandescents, and a lot less cost. And so people seem to think that lighting is cheaper now, and really the impacts of lighting are more because the brightness and the cost has gone down with LED. People don't think they need to turn off their lights anymore because they're so cheap to operate.
Absolutely.
And so what can we do now, and how do we achieve, some sort of recourse on projects? I think that I would hope that the OSAC could come up with a ordinance that would certainly address upcoming projects, especially commercial, and focus on those to be compliant, and then phase in compliance with existing commercial and also be on top of new construction in the residential, and phase in the existing lighting that's there. And so that we could be a little bit more softer on our approach and get buy-in on not seeing all the commercial light, not seeing all the city lights. And, just the cost of the city to retrofit or do what they need to do. A lot of people are going to come back with safety issues that, we need our sidewalks bright so that people don't stumble and trip and that there's not a hazard. Wow, so there's going to be a lot of pushback from citizens when they start seeing what all the issues are, even though we can all see the good side of it. So no, I'll use headphones. Don't worry about it. So I would, want to make sure that we can try to get something on the books before all our projects come down, as far as, big things coming in the city, Sierra Point, the quarry, Baylands, that we make sure that we have those tamped down, because if those go in before we have any ordinance, it's going to be difficult to fight that battle. And again, I think that a more middle of the road approach, and I hate to say that because I'd love to see half the lights dimmed or turned off. Yeah. I think we're going to have to go with a more middle of the road approach to be able to get this through and get it operable in a time frame that makes sense, where it's going to have a bigger impact. So that's my 2 cents worth, and I hope that the subcommittee can bring something forward that is acceptable to staff within our financial constraints and our plan checking constraints, that we as a council can really get behind without having to invest so much time on a controversial issue and just get it done for what's coming forward and grandfather in what has happened in the past.
Can I say thank you for that, Terry? I mean, I think that's very much where our hearts are at, and I think we can deliver that to you. I think we can, we haven't taken the time to incorporate staff's feedback as of now, but I think there is stuff we can simplify. They pointed out some things that we can simplify, and I think we can do that. Yeah, and I think phasing in is going to really be key so that we can, just be so that it's digestible by everybody, right? And we start with a new commercial, and then we either start with new residential or move on to existing commercial. And then existing residential, of course, be last. Positions number 2 and 3 are up for grabs, depending on what the perception is going to be the biggest bang for the buck. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this is all very doable. And we just need a direction from council, and we're hearing that some of the stuff is going to be kind of burdensome, but I think something that's maybe being overlooked is that the burden is somewhat automatically scaled to the project, in so much as like a little house, a little 600 square foot house isn't going to have that much lighting, so they're not going to have that big of a project. Whereas like a huge commercial installation, like a big commercial development, is going to have a lot of lights and is going to have a bigger burden. And so, I think for me, my hope is that's going to be less of a concern, but it is a concern that I hear and a concern that we would like to address.
Thank you, Barbara. I'd like to have Adrian. She's had her hand up very patiently for a while.
Sure, thank you. So I just wanted to kind of clarify something that maybe I didn't make clear when I introduced this, which is that staff has effectively already drafted an ordinance that we believe we can support, and it could be implemented relatively quickly. Obviously, there's still public process that we need to go through, and there may be a few small details that we still need to work out with the subcommittee, but the ordinance is largely drafted by staff.
Have I seen that?
Meets many of this requirement, discussion here.
Have we seen that?
It has been shared with the subcommittee.
Damn. Because I remember the Malibu one. Was it after? It was after Malibu, obviously.
It was based on Malibu, and staff, actually Rachel did an excellent job, I thought, of very clearly detailing where we were departing from Malibu and where there were variations between what staff was recommending and what would be dark sky compliant. So that has all been laid out, I think, in a very detailed way. And, we think if, based on what I'm hearing so far, that we could move forward with, cleaning that up and bringing it forward relatively quickly, if that is the desire.
Okay, well, we'll have to pick that up later. I remember the dark skies. I remember the Brisbane Malibu, the IDA side by side, but I haven't seen actual ordinance text.
Could we, there's a number of other hands up here that I'd like to get some comment from. I think I'm not sure who was first. Maybe
it's in order. Mary's next.
Mary's next. Okay.
Just to clarify and to just put it on the table, what I'm hearing from everyone, and I think we all agree, time is of the essence, is to get something done. And it sounds like we're going in the direction of a specific ordinance to Brisbane. I'm also hearing that to get more bang for our buck is to hit new commercial being the priority 1, then existing commercial priority 2. And then once we have that in place, then start hitting new residential and then existing residential. And I mean, we can go on forever this evening, but that's what I'm hearing, and I'm proposing that that's how we present it to council in a prioritized manner, and take it from there. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Erin's next.
So I wrote some notes to myself, and it started out thanking Terry and Colleen for your feedback. I think that that's really valuable for us moving forward. As you can tell, there's a lot of opinions and a lot of feelings on what we should be doing, and just having some direction is really helpful. And then I want to thank Mary for providing an excellent synopsis, because that's kind of what I was thinking, but it's nice to, hear everything balled together with that. The one thing I have is, if we have prioritized the order in which this happens and we're phasing this in, does that happen in one ordinance? Or are we going to bring you part A, commercial, and then part B, new resident? Does that make sense? I don't know how the best way to proceed is. And so I'm kind of curious, and whether that's from our council liaisons or staff. I'm just curious.
Does council have any comment to that, or staff?
I would ask if, Adrian, when you say staff has already drafted an ordinance, is that comprehensive, both new, existing commercial, new residential, existing residential? What does your draft ordinance comprise?
Sure. So what we have drafted basically would cover both new and existing, and those requirements would be in effect for new buildings. And I believe we had a 3-year, if I remember correctly, although I think that was something that was still perhaps up for debate, period during which existing would be able to come into compliance. Now, that detail could certainly be adjusted, and I think we could give different timescales for different, residential and commercial. But I think we could, to the question that was just posed prior to that, I think we could phase that in all within one ordinance. I would expect relatively easily.
Thank you, Adrian.
Is it possible to hear from staff what they feel would be doable in terms of a phase in to be able to deal with plan checking?
Well, so as Adrian mentioned, the ordinance that staff drafted, we are comfortable with implementing for new residential and new commercial. And we thought that it was reasonable, and something we could easily integrate into our existing plan check process. So we don't have a concern with the draft ordinance, because we had a hand in drafting its provisions, and we feel comfortable with them.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry, sorry, Terry. There was Michelle had her hand up about.
Of course, go ahead.
Sorry.
I just wanted to say that we could put the ordinance together completely at one time, have some phased approaches in terms of compliance, but I also want to make sure that for both commercial and residential, that we have a fast track for complaint-based compliance, and not necessarily in the quote unquote phased kind of thing. Because I know that there are certain situations that are exacerbated where someone's like blasting light all over the place, and some of this, like, I'm sorry, Mission Blue Field. Why are the lights on at 10 o'clock at night when it's pouring rain? Yeah, that's a city property. But I do think that expediting an ordinance at this point is great. Sooner is better. And I absolutely think that, though, we should have some accommodation for complaint-based I mean, if someone automatically puts up some big light that shines right in your window because it goes on every time a raccoon walks by, it needs to be addressed. That's all.
Thank you, Michelle. Sorry, now Terry can.
So I just wanted to say, as the liaison or one of the liaisons, I don't think that, it's our role at the moment to try to negotiate this within your committee. I think that I would like to see in the next, month or two, something that comes to the council that we can say that has been brought forward by staff and the OSEC, so that we have something that we can begin discussion and public discussion on. And I think that would be the best recourse for this committee, is to bring something forward that you guys can negotiate with staff, that you guys can be happy with. Granted, nobody's going to be completely happy with any of it. To bring it forward to us so that we can actually get this ball rolling before, too many other projects are fast tracked. So that would be my goal of this. And, certainly the opinion that, I've given on what I'd like to see. I think new construction should take precedent over existing lighting, whether it be commercial or residential. I think that, certainly a new residential project that's going in needs to have that oversight, that they're not putting in lighting that is overabundant for their site straight to begin with, because like I said, we all know that LEDs can be really invasive. So I would personally suggest that new gets precedented over existing, and that the city's right up there with their lighting in that initial mix.
Thank you, Terry. That's been good. Colleen?
Colleen, you're muted.
Someone who lives with in a house with lighting coming from 4 different sides. It's extremely invasive. I would say part of the heavy lifting on acceptance of an ordinance, I would just strongly recommend that anything that you bring to the council address the safety issue, because that's going to be one thing that you're going to get the biggest pushback. And the council is going to listen to citizens who are going to say, I've got to have all of this light. And there's plenty of studies done on how many lumens. And then beyond that, people will insist it has to be even brighter, and it does nothing. It creates so much glare that it's creating an unsafe condition because you can't really see anything. You've got so much glare. So I would put some real heavy emphasis on coming with the reasons behind this. And if you just make it all environmental, I think, again, people are going to say, I'm not going to spend money for this. I've got too many other costs. So it's going to have some very good arguments for adoption. So thank you. And I agree with everything that Councilmember O'Connell said. And I'm very pleased that staff has something that seems to be more ready to go. And I would agree, the new commercial, if you can do new commercial and residential at the same time, that's great. So thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. I guess we're back to Barbara again.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think these safety concerns is a reason to get as close to IDA certifiable as possible, because that's all science and that's all, like, they have the documentation that if you follow these light formulations, then it's still safe. But I need to see staff's thing somehow that got buried. And there was one other thing I was going to say for Colleen that Colleen just mentioned, but I'm just going to drop it. Thank you. Thank you both of you for, helping us kind of get a direction here. We kind of got lost. That's all. Thanks.
So I just want to say, are we ready to move forward? Because I hear loud and clear that we're going to do the best ordinance we can, and we are not necessarily going to be a dark sky certified. And we're going to move forward with this based on the feedback that we got today from the city council liaisons. We are going to do the best we can to put together an ordinance. We're going to review the one that staff has presented to us and make the modifications that we need to feel satisfied with and put it forth to the council. I would like this done. My goal is to have it done by the summer equinox. There you go. So are we all in agreement? And then we move on to the other things we need to ask the liaisons about? Show of hands or whatever we need to do, or do we make a motion?
There's a comment here from Glenn for a moment. Go ahead.
I was going to echo Michelle pretty much. I think that we should, at least at our next meeting, review a tweaked ordinance. And it sounds like a good starting point is the one that has been put together by staff, since staff feels that it's manageable. And the two tweaks that I'm hearing seem to be most apropos are prioritization of new projects, both commercial and residential. And I also very much like Michelle's suggestion of complaint-based, I forget what you called it, Michelle, but
complaint-based enforcement.
Yeah, I like that. And so I would like to see a version of the staff prepared ordinance at the next OSEC meeting. And if we approve it, we can send it on to the council then. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, and I'd like to see a subcommittee meeting to review it prior to that.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen it either.
None of us have.
Jason?
Unless we're on the subcommittee.
No,
Yeah.
I'm on the subcommittee. I haven't seen it either.
Somehow it got lost in the chaff and I thought it was the old one or something, and I haven't seen it either. So we're going to have to fix that.
Adrian sent it to the Dark Skies Committee on December 19th. It might have been lost in the holidays.
Yeah,
I believe
maybe
it
that
may
was
have been sent right before one of our subcommittee meetings as well. And we asked if the subcommittee wanted to look through it in detail and did not end up doing that.
December 19th would have been a tough day to receive it. That's okay. We'll look at it.
Yeah. I can't
Hey,
wait.
I think I was called on. Hey, I
Um,
wanted to thank our two liaison. I thought it was amazing what both the mayor and Terry said about getting the public buy-in and the points that were brought up there. Everybody here seems to want to go fast. I move that we move on and look at the staff thing and start with the big bang for the buck for the new new industrial stuff. And I move that we move on from here because it's turning into a sinkhole right now. So thank you though for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
We have more questions for them, Jason. They're not leaving yet.
I understood. I meant leave this topic is what I meant.
Yeah,
Leave
I
this
agree.
topic. Yep.
I agree.
Councilperson Mackin.
You're on mute, Colleen. You're on mute, Colleen.
Got it. Thank you. I just have one afterthought. If you want to avoid a lot of furor, make sure you discuss allowances for Brisbane stars, Because
Oh,
if
yeah.
you don't do that, you are going to have a pushback like you've never seen. So there are ways to still have stars without polluting the sky. And I think any presentation, you're going to have to make that part of it. Thank you for
Yep.
considering that.
Yeah, we did already. We've talked about it extensively, so we'll incorporate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Do we have anything else under our old business?
I think we have other issues that we wanted to ask the liaisons about our work plan.
Here's our work plan. That's the next thing.
Yes, so you can see the draft work plan up on the screen now. I will say for the liaisons, this is a slightly different format than you've seen from the OSEC work plan before. And really the committee wanted to make clear what were their priority projects and then some of the more routine or ongoing efforts that we have been doing for many years, as well as long-term policy issues, which would only be tackled if a certain action is taken or trigger hits. And then one additional item that is requested to be added to the work plan that would require council direction.
Do our council liaisons have any comments? Colleen, you're on mute.
I have a question, please. Is the list of priority projects in order of priority, or is this where these are broken down into subcommittees working on them simultaneously?
Generally, these are addressed by different subcommittees that are working simultaneously, although I would say this is probably pretty close to a priority order.
Okay, and then the second question is, consider reach codes for existing buildings. And I'm just at a little bit of a loss. Adrian, I know that's something in your job that you do. So why is this on OSEC's work plan? I'm just curious.
Well, generally, we have been working through policy recommendations of that sort with input from the committee. So we actually have a subcommittee that is looking at existing building reach codes. That is Aaron, Barbara, and Glenn. That's discussed that in the past and is something we're continuing to work forward through so that we can make sure that we have community input on whatever recommendations we would bring forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Does Terry have any comments about this?
No, I don't think I have any comments other than the requested item to provide input on core development. I'm assuming that I'll get a little more information here.
Does anybody wish to elucidate on the provide input?
I suppose I can try, although I'm hoping that maybe committee members that asked for this to be on here can add to it. Generally, as a development proposal, the Open Space and Ecology Committee would not have a formal role in review. And so the committee has requested to have some role in that review.
In the past, on large development projects, we've often just had some comments about the project in regards to the environment and how it's impacting the environment, how it might be improved to to be more harmonious with the environment. So I think we were thinking that we would sort of continue in that advisory role. Of course, we don't have any authority, no decision-making power over any planning project, the way that the Planning Commission does, but we've generally stuck our fingers in that pie and wiggled around the plums just to see if we could improve the project, make suggestions, maybe things that developers don't think about, because developers often think that the way that their project interacts with the environment is just like not even on their plates.
Thank you, Barbara. I think Michelle was next and then Karen.
Yeah, I would like us to have some input on this. This is a massive project. The idea of 1.4 million square feet of freight forwarding space in operation 24/7 will have a definite impact on our open space and environment. In particular, since the proposed plans call for a reconfiguration of Quarry Road and egress and ingress to the area, as well as consideration of the massive changes in habitat that have happened with the landslides that we experienced on New Year's Eve. And I just feel like, my whole first year on OSEC was involved with reviewing the Baylands. And so we were asked by the council to participate in the process, especially because it involved, open space, ecology, issues like that. And I think that we should be as an arm of the council, an advisory arm of the council. I do feel that we should be involved in this process. And I think it's important. And this is a massive, massive development that has implications for the HCP, has implications for county parks. It has implications of whether, this is annexed into the city of Brisbane. It will be if the project moves forward. But I have questions about, the feasibility and reasonableness of the project moving forward and the impacts it will have on our environment, open space, ecology, citizens of Brisbane. So I do think that we should have some input on this if at the council's pleasure. Thank you. I don't think it should be left to staff. I think that a citizens committee needs to have some feedback on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Karen? Oh, you're
Karen,
muted.
Muted again. Was not staffing the OSEC committee at the time, but just to provide the history, and probably council liaisons already know this, but however the request was made, there was a formal action by the council to have the Open Space and Ecology Committee have a role in reviewing the Baylands EIR, as opposed to members doing it as they have a right to as residents. So I think this request is similar to that was done by a council action that I was informed of when I started staffing the committee. That's all.
Thank you, Karen. Is there any other comments about this input? I think that gives you a little bit of overbrief of what we're interested in. We just want to be part of the process because it affects a lot of our open space. Councilperson O'Connell?
Yes, thank you. Personally, I would like this specific question to be brought up, and perhaps Clay can help with this in mayor council matters at our next meeting, where we can bring it up and make a decision as a council. I mean, I support our committees and commissions weighing in on developments, but I think that it's something that should be discussed at the entire council level.
We can certainly do that, Councilman O'Connell. I think in the Karen referred to it, what we did in the past was have the committees review the EIR document, and within that timeline and time frame, provide comment. And I think that's kind of a more seamless approach to the process, and certainly something I think staff would be supportive of.
Okay, but I just would like to make sure that the entire council is supportive of that.
Sure. I will bring that up on March 2nd.
Thank you.
I believe Councilperson Mackin is the next one, and then Glenn.
I was just going to say I concur with what Terry said. I think the council needs to weigh in on it. I don't see a problem with it. I appreciate the interest and the input, just like any citizen, but I mean, as a committee, your input is really valuable, and you have a lot of times way more knowledge and insights than maybe a lot of individuals in Brisbane might think of in other ways. So I concur with it. Thank you.
Glenn?
I was just going to say that my recollection is that OSEC, when we looked at the Baylands, that OSEC was involved in scoping. And that is actually one of the more important parts of an environmental review, because it lays out the questions that should be asked in the course of the preparation of the EIR. And I think, given what Michelle said about the size of this project and the fact that it's right next door to an ecological preserve, that OSEC, if provided the council approves, could have an important role in input on scoping questions.
If I could just input, you know, the project, the EIR is already well underway. The scoping meeting took place some time ago.
Okay.
So that part of the process is moving through. But
Train has left the station.
Yeah, I think
No,
that
it has not.
train is on its way. But
That train has.
the EIR review is still several months into the future. So I think that will give you an opportunity to review that document and to make comment.
I'd just like to comment that I made several comments on the initial scoping of the NOP as a private citizen and also as part of San Bruno Mountain Watch. But in December, an actual plan, as opposed to a whatever you call it, was filed with another NOP right at Christmas, right around Christmas. And it was noticed, but really people didn't have an opportunity to know it and respond to it. And I think that should be reopened for more scoping. And I also feel for the public to be more noticed. I think that it was kind of like not really good to do that during Christmas when everyone was on, you know, holiday mode. So yeah, that's very recent. The original scoping was quite a couple of months earlier. So I kind of have a problem with that, and I don't feel that it was very transparent. And there are other things going on that I don't feel are very transparent as well. In particular, changes to the habitat conservation plan. So I really do feel that this needs to be brought forward to the public, and the OSEC needs to have a voice in this, as well as more transparency in the process. So that's how I feel about it. And I hope that the Open Space and Ecology Committee and the council feel the same way. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm sorry, who was speaking previously?
Clay Holstein.
Okay, I'm sorry, that wasn't clear. It just says community meeting room. Thank you. Does anybody have any other comments?
Are we good with our work plan, council liaisons? Did you have any questions about it?
If I could just say, I think the work that OSEC does is critically important, and it's really appreciated. I do hope sometime this year you go to the council, talk a little bit about what you've been working on, just because I think you deserve that limelight for all the hard work that you do behind the scenes that maybe some people don't follow all the time or know about. So I'm fine with your work plan, and I will thank you again for inviting us tonight. And Councilmember O'Connell, she can weigh in next.
I too really respect all the work that you guys put in and appreciate it. And I think that you help to keep Brisbane in a greener mode, and appreciate all the work you do. So I don't have a problem with the work plan. I do think that the entire council should weigh in on the requested item, which I am in support of, but I'd like the rest of the council to weigh in.
Thank you, liaisons. We
Thank
really
you for
appreciate
coming.
Yeah, we really
Thank you
appreciate
very much.
taking
You're
time out of
welcome
your
to stay for
evenings.
the boring stuff.
It may be short and sweet.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
I
thank you for the
apologize.
job you do.
Okay, I guess we're going to move on, and we're going to look at the approval of our minutes from our January meeting.
I will note,
let's-
I think I missed a slide here. We did have a break built into the agenda at this juncture. I would just ask if there is anybody who would like to go ahead and take a couple minutes, or.
I would move we barrel through. We are coming up on 90 minutes right now. I'd move we barrel through.
It was
Mhm.
mostly to offer the liaison the chance to gracefully step off of the meeting.
Okay. I think they did.
Let's move on to staff updates.
No, we
Approval
have
of the
to,
minutes.
we have to approve the minutes first.
Oh.
And does anybody have any comments about the previous meeting's minutes? Do they need to make any adjustments to them, or can we just do a roll call and everybody can approve him as
Move
is?
to adopt the minutes.
I
Okay.
second that.
I second that. You're the chair. You don't
oh,
get to second.
oops. That's no fair. Okay, well then I guess we'll vote on this. Or Glenn,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Aaron Becker,
Yes.
Michelle Salmons,
Yes.
Jason Noonan,
Abstain. I watched the video, but I wasn't here.
Barbara Ebel,
I,
Shauna Kelmes, aye. The minutes were approved. All right, we will move on to staff updates. Do we have any staff updates? Karen?
I
I
just have
do,
one related
sorry.
to subcommittee, so.
Okay.
I have a couple. They're pretty quick. Some of them you may have already seen some news about. So construction for the City Hall EV chargers is complete. We're just awaiting Chargy to complete the quality assurance and certification and then activate. And we're also on the staff side assessing pricing. Mission Blue construction is expected to also be complete at the end of this week or early next. We also completed installation of a heat pump water heater at Mission Blue through that PG&E GK12 program. So we've now gotten 4 heat pump water heaters for city facilities at no cost to the city, which is excellent.
Wow.
And we also signed the PPA or power purchase agreement contract with Peninsula Clean Energy for solar at Mission Blue Center as part of their bulk procurement program. So lots going on at Mission Blue. And then you may have also seen that, or actually maybe you haven't seen yet, we did send out some notices of violations and administrative citations regarding SB 1383. That's the state organics law. So if you have heard from any of your friends or neighbors about getting a letter from the city, they do need to sign up for organic waste service. And yes, Scavenger is out doing lid flipping. So you do also need to sort your waste properly. So we've got some communications that have been going out on that and will continue to. And I think that was everything that I had.
A lot of lid flipping going on.
Thank you, Adrian. That's great.
he's Sunset or South San Francisco Scavengers is welcome to flip my lid anytime they want.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Only we.
Stop now. Stop now.
All right.
Move on.
All right. I guess we're going to move on to the subcommittee reports before we all go nutty. Glenn. Glenn has a comment.
I just wanted to ask if there's been any news about an estimate of the cost of removing invasives from city property, because that's one of the things that's holding up the invasive species ordinance, which otherwise I think is kind of ready to go, if I'm not mistaken. We were trying to figure out what kind of timeline we needed to include in that, and that partly depends on how big a hit the city is going to have to take to remove those species. And I also wanted to ask, related to that, I wanted to ask Adrian if she's had any news from the county about going after the invasives in the park, which are moving very fast, especially gorse is now on the other side of Guadalupe Canyon Drive and intruding deep into the park. That was it.
So on the update from the county on invasives, I'm trying to remember, I thought I maybe had updated about this at the last meeting. I was at the countywide weed management area meeting, and they did have some updates, and I'm sorry, I don't have those details in front of me, but there are a number of different projects they mentioned that are either currently moving forward or are planned to move forward at particular time periods, as appropriate based on species and kind of their staff resources and funding. So I think they're kind of way they presented it is, we know there's always more to do. We're trying to do what we can and what we have the resources to do and prioritize as best as possible. So I'm not sure if the exact areas that you mentioned or are interested in or ones they said they were covering, but there are a number of projects they mentioned that are moving forward.
You did mention that. I just wondered if there was anything specific about like when. Apparently not.
There probably was, but I don't know that I had all of the notes on that.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Are we holding up the invasive species ordinance based on invasives on city property?
That was part of it, yeah.
Can we move forward with it and, kind of institute a timeline? Or is it what's good for the goose is what's good for the gander, or whatever you want to call it? Because I think that we should move forward with it. I think we should move forward with it.
You want to move to the subcommittee slide?
Do we have other staff updates?
So I think we
I don't.
we were ready to move forward with the
Okay.
subcommittees.
So to jump down to that, I've just gotten, sorry, to be able to request quotes, so I don't have those quotes. The subcommittee had, as a majority, I guess, I don't remember what everybody particularly was hoping for, wanted to have city property follow along or have to do the same thing that the public would have to do in an ordinance, even if the timeline were different. So the direction was to get an idea of cost before bringing something forward to council so that they knew what it was going to cost to do so.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to go ahead and move forward with it regardless. I mean, that's my personal opinion. The city will do what they need to do based on what they can do with costs, and so will the public. But the sooner we have an ordinance in place, the sooner we can get working on it.
So what language would you have in the ordinance for city properties? I don't understand.
Well, I'm saying that we can include all of it and kind of do a phased approach for, the city obviously has a lot of property that needs that to happen, and so do personal people. That's it, Glenn.
Yeah, I was just going to say, but the timelines need to be written into the ordinance. And so we're trying to get an idea of what those timelines ought to be. The city is facing some financial constraints, which I understand are fairly significant. And so we're kind of holding up the final wording of the ordinance, which I believe is mostly done, until we get some information of how much it's going to cost the city.
Ordinance language isn't written, but an outline is put together.
Okay.
Is there a way to fast track that? Because the city has to go through a lot to get bids. Whereas if we just move forward with the ordinance, the city could get their bids on, put them on a different timeline.
I think Erin had her hand up
Oh,
next.
sorry. That was just
I-
consultative.
Yeah, so I originally was fine with waiting on getting cost estimates and impact estimates from the city, but it has been what, 4 months now? So I propose that the invasive species group plans a meeting for the coming month so that we can flush out the remaining verbiage of the draft ordinance and decide how to have phased timelines for the city and possibly other highly impacted landowners. So it might be that there's another group that, this is going to end up costing them a lot. And we don't know who that is right now, but there should be a best effort, good faith kind of plan going forward. But I just propose we meet in the next month to flesh this out and not do it during the OSEC meeting.
That's fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Agree.
That sounds great. I guess, shall we jump back to the
The
top?
committee is Becker, Fieldman, Noonan. I think, Michelle, you switched with Jason, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
What did we switch? I'm still on the weed committee.
Yes, you're still on the weed committee.
Okay. Good.
But now aren't you also on the frog committee?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it the weed committee if I were you, Jason.
Yes, it's yeah, that's very vague. You need to call it the invasive.
Absolutely. We love all the plants.
All right.
Just a quick comment from me. From last month's minutes, I have Michelle leaving the Crocker Trail Frog Habitat Subcommittee and Noonan taking her place.
Thank you, Rachel. I apologize. I didn't get that updated in the slides.
So shall I go back to the top of the list since we sort of jumped ahead?
Sure. I actually do have something for the very first subcommittee events. Something came to our attention in the last yesterday, maybe this week. There was a request from a community member through, I believe, Councilmember Lentz and Ariel at Mountain Watch about addressing through a volunteer day trash on the. Oh gosh, Karen, it's been a long night. I'm blanking on the name of the trail. What's the name of the trail?
Ranch.
Old Ranch. Yes. Old Ranch Road Trail. Am I getting that right?
It parallels Guadalupe Canyon Parkway to essentially the southwest between the lower tank and the park entrance.
Right. So
if anyone hasn't been on it.
We got forwarded some pictures, and the assessment from Karen and I is that a lot of the trash, it looks to be illegal dumping, possibly homeless encampment. Some of the trash is quite large. We feel that it's probably not an ideal situation for a volunteer day. And we have also already been in touch with County Parks, who thanked us for passing it along and was going to get someone on it. So I did want to mention that for OSEC's consideration, because the question was asked if we would want to do that as our next Habitat Day or our Earth Day. But our recommendation would be that we continue with the original plan, which would be to pull invasive species over on Calippi Hill, where we had our planting day just a few weeks ago. I'm seeing nods, so I'm gonna guess that is something the subcommittee, the committee supports. So that was all for that. And then did want to just acknowledge that we had a really nice planting day a couple of weeks ago on February 9th. We had, I don't know, probably about 15 people, I think, that
More
were
than
out.
that. There was more than that.
Yeah, maybe 20. It was a nice day, a little bit drizzly,
rained.
but we mostly managed to get it in between the rains and get lots of plants and even saw a coyote.
It was absolutely beautiful day, and Jeff and Adrian participated, and it was fantastic. We had 3 people from the county. We had several volunteers. Ariel did his usual amazing magic. I planted one plant and took a lot of pictures because I'm getting old. But I wish more members of OSEC had attended, because it really was a stunningly beautiful view from up on Calippi Hill, looking out over the bay and the mountain, and it was spectacular. And I cannot wait for Calippi Hill to actually be inducted into the county park someday soon. So, and Adrian, thank you for participating and organizing it, and thanks to Jeff as well.
Absolutely. So we'll be going back to that same location on Earth Day, April 22nd. So hopefully we'll see some folks out there. It's a lovely view. It was my first time being on that part of the mountain, so it was really nice.
It was amazing.
I did want to note, we discussed last time, we disbanded the CAP subcommittee, and we talked about having a committee focused on those existing building reach codes. However, technically, some of the things we've talked about aren't really reach codes, and there could be other programmatic ways to support existing building decarbonization. So I took some staff liberties with the naming of that new ad hoc subcommittee and just called it building decarbonization. So if anybody wants to suggest an alternate name, I'm fine with that. But in case you were curious what that was about, that was focused on primarily the existing building reach codes, but reach codes is not exactly a all-encompassing term.
Sounds good to me.
I'm going to wonder if we could make it broader and just say community decarbonization, because then we could include transportation.
Well, that would be nice.
Yeah, that's true. That's more in alignment with what the CAP used to do.
I concur.
I guess I was just trying to keep it somewhat focused since it is ad hoc. Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
That's, yeah. And you can form an ad hoc, so, this thing gets to a point that it's something you want to recommend. You can form an ad hoc subcommittee to look at transportation decarbonization.
Staff lets us keep going. I don't think we need to make any decisions now if we can make them later.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to go through these really quickly. Is there anything on the events subcommittee that people want to discuss?
Put your thinking caps on and be thinking about the day in the park. And
yeah, we're making them little cork things again. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
We're not. No,
I'm
we're
saving
not.
corks.
Well, I'm not coming. I don't want to do it.
Cork it.
We said we were doing it again. You don't have to buy that huge sail that you bought the last time. That's fine.
I've been drinking all this wine for nothing.
But also, please, let's all try to attend Earth Day. Please put it on your calendars. I felt so lonely without any of my other subcommittee or committee members when we did the planting day. It was just so beautiful. So please put that on your calendar and invite your friends. It's a big deal. And then we do want to think about Day in the Park, and we also have our summer day that we need to discuss and decide on as well.
Cork sailboats for Day in the Park. Thank you.
Right. Glenn?
I request to be excused. My neighbors are having a bit of an emergency involving a missing cat. So I respectfully request permission to leave the meeting.
Okay, that's okay with me.
Put your raincoat on. It's pouring out right now.
Yeah, I will. Thanks all.
All right.
Bye.
Nice to see you. Thanks.
Do you think I need to schedule my cab? How much longer do you guys think?
Oh, 3 minutes if it were up to me.
I'm trying to run these things here quickly.
Yep, barrel through.
So let's
Good luck with the
anything
cat.
Anything with education and outreach?
I know that the library display is overdue for an update. Our next topic was about waste, and I am working with Teresa and the folks at Scavenger. So we've got a lot on our plate with dealing with SB 1383, but we are trying to get that updated and get that new display moving forward soon.
You.
What?
Anything with the Bayland subcommittee?
No meetings have been scheduled, or if they have, they've been canceled.
Okay, thank you. I guess we talked about the building decarbonization. Is there anything else that we need to discuss with that one? Nope.
Nope.
Open plan update.
Open space plan update. I would like the subcommittee to have a meeting to review the open space plan and see the next area that we want to focus on.
Okay, well,
I second that.
I third it.
All right.
So,
Adrian, is that possible to try to arrange, or you want us to do it without you, or just do it?
No, it's Karen.
Oh, Karen.
Yeah,
Sorry.
You're saying.
Yeah, sure. Do it without me.
we'll do it at the yacht.
Go, Adrian.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
You can and report back. That's okay.
Okay.
It would be nice to meet as a group. I haven't met with this committee yet, and
Yeah, we should meet.
Yeah,
that'd
let's
be
do
nice.
it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Can you send out a whatever those bubble polls or whatever they're called?
Doodle poll,
Doodles, not
Doodle.
bubbles.
Yeah.
It's a doodle.
Well, if it's just Mary, Shauna, and I, maybe we could just arrange it. Does it need to be noticed? It's an ad hoc committee.
Yep.
No, it does not.
Okay.
All
So
right.
Mary, you want to take charge of that and schedule us?
Yeah.
You're so organized. I love that. Okay.
Thank you.
So the Crocker Trail frog habitat, I just have a couple of comments on that. So a big thank you to Paul Buscal and Jason. It looks gorgeous. I don't know if you guys have walked by there, but it's in tip-top shape. And I know we received a quote from the consultants, which we should meet and talk about what the next steps are there. But I do have a request, and I don't know if it's already been cleared, but Paul Buscal has asked the city to clear out. There's a bunch of debris at the beginning of the frog habitat on the little pie-shaped area where we would like to plant some wildflowers and such. That would just, it's icing on the cake. But we need to get rid of that debris. And I know the city is really still working on getting everything cleaned up from the storm. But the debris is in a big pile. All it's needed is for the scavengers to go by and load it up and take it away. And then we can start that process. So we would like to request that. And then hopefully I would take the reins and schedule a volunteer day to help Paul plant and do some final touches on the habitat, if that's okay.
I also had something to add to that, is and I noticed in my many walks by there that the pools seem to be really backing up, and I think but then you don't see any water running out into the concrete channel, and I think that drainage tube, I don't know,
be declogged.
It has been declogged.
No, I don't think it has.
I think it needs to be roto-rooted, and I think that's a city thing.
Yeah.
Or somebody has to just take a big roto-rooter to that culvert, because that's where it's backing up and going into other areas.
How would we add that to the request to remove the stuff? How will we do that, ladies on staff?
Number one, I'm not sure where the debris is or how Paul asked, but is it at Cypress Lane?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Cypress Lane is right at the
tile of-
beginning of the frog habitat. Right by
The west end,
the driveway, yeah.
Cypress Lane. Did he do a service request? That's the best way.
I don't know what he did. I actually walked it with him, and he said he's gone in a couple of times. My guess is he has not done a service request. So
Mary, would you do a service request? You know how to do them.
That's what
You're
I'm
good at
saying.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are documented. They're on the clock.
All right.
I didn't know whether it was appropriate to do that as an OSEC member and use
Cool.
my
Oh,
Brisbane
yeah.
app for that kind of stuff, or
Yeah.
I've done it.
more formal.
I do service requests too.
Yeah.
Okay,
I do it
cool.
to get ivy off
FYI.
the city
You
trees.
go, Karen.
I was hoping because I'm on OSEC that we would have a little pull to get it done quicker. So
It'll get quicker done with a service request.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
pile's been there for a long time now.
I
And I'm
can
very
prod too,
grateful.
but the service request is helpful.
okay,
Yeah,
I will do that. Yeah.
And then
And I don't know that
do we-
scavenger can pick that up. They're under contract to pick up dumped.
All right.
Trash,
Well, who
you know.
picks it up, Karen?
the
I
city
think
will.
it's, yeah, or they, they might try to engage, Humboldt Tree Service, someone,
Okay.
a contractor
Okay.
that helps if they don't have staff.
Okay.
Karen, can we put in a service request to have the pipe augered to get some flow going?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Excellent.
So do I need to do that too, or
Yeah,
If you
we do
could.
two separate ones. It's
two
probably,
separate?
they go to
Okay, I can do that. Yeah.
utilities are one and
Oh my God. There's a
planted
cat.
things
Oh
are
my
another.
God.
The
Okay.
monster.
So that I request it correctly, it's to have the drain augered. Would that be
Yeah, so that there's some
Cleared.
drainage.
Cleared,
Not
just say
cleared.
cleared.
Okay.
And if you have a photo, that's the best.
Okay, I'll have to take a walk over there. Okay, so I won't probably put it through until Friday. That's the next time I'll have a chance to walk by there. So, okay.
Rainy, if you do it, if you use the app, it pins the location for you.
Yeah,
You're
I will.
right.
Yeah, that's what I will do. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Let's see, I guess.
So frog habitat, the resource conservation district,
Yes.
they've just contacted us that they are freed up and ready to kick off. And I said, do you need a kickoff meeting? And they said they're gonna meet internally and let us know soon. So they haven't really started much before now.
Okay, well, that's perfect timing. Okay, good. Okay, so you'll let us know once they contact you so we can officially meet with them for next steps, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Karen. Are we done with the frog?
Yes.
All right. Invasive species, I guess we already
We already
talked
talked about.
dark skies, we talked about.
We've beat that one to death, but can we have a meeting
Yeah. Oh,
scheduled?
that's done. That's cooked. That's good.
No, I'm going to second what Michelle said. Can we have a meeting scheduled hopefully for the next month? Sometime in the next month?
Yes, we will try to get something on the calendar.
Perfect.
Great.
Look forward to the bubble plot or whatever.
Doodle poll.
Ooh, doodle.
I guess my general question would be, where are we with daytime meetings right now? Can we do daytimes or does it need to be evening?
Evening would be better. I work full-time 8 to 5, Monday through Thursday, and Fridays 8 to 2. So I'm like really overwhelmed with that. I can try to schedule an hour lunch one day, but evenings would be more relaxed.
I was also going to say that the easiest weekday for me is a Friday afternoon. So
That's good for me.
I also prefer evenings, but Friday afternoons are good.
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah,
Barbara?
I still have to work till 5 on Fridays, so I can try to take like a long lunch on a Friday. Like my lunch is supposedly 12:15 to 1, but
Doodle poll.
yeah.
Yeah, doodle
Okay,
poll.
thank you. That's
Evenings
helpful.
are better.
We'll probably do a Wednesday evening, it sounds like. So we'll get something on the calendar. Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
Tree issues. I'd love us to have a tree issue meeting. We certainly have had a lot of tree issues in the last 2 months.
Oh yeah.
Oh God. So is there any way we can schedule one, Karen, so we can get this going? People have asked about it. They've asked about all kinds of stuff. And I just feel like we really need this.
Yeah, let's pick it up after
Yeah.
the holidays. I've had a brain flush. I mean, after
I was gonna
last season working 60 hours a week, I don't remember much.
Yeah, I don't know about having all of them in the next month, but let's,
Yeah.
keep it.
Sooner is better.
Front of mind,
Okay.
top of mind.
All right. The Sierra Point planning.
Tempest in a teapot? The tempest in a teapot?
Oh,
Yeah. I don't think we've had a meeting. I don't think we've had a subcommittee meeting since the last time we had one. So it's just been, just watching things progress and trying to keep the facts out there and try to keep the temperature down.
Please, everyone, come to the March 2nd council meeting and find out for yourselves.
Yes.
There's been a lot of swirl, a lot of false information out there. Barbara's done a good job of trying to level set that. So please come and participate. It's a master parks plan for the marina, not the marina.
I think part of the problem might be that a specific individual doesn't feel like their input is being taken into account. So maybe they're trying to stir stuff up, but.
Okay, onward and upward.
Okay,
Lippman.
Oh, the Lippman Science Fair. So they had the fair. The timeline was very tight this year. So I attended the judges' night and I picked 3 of the students' projects that deserve the OSEC award. However, I needed the students' names in order for the certificates to be printed. So I called Adrian in a panic. I said, hey, it's, I'm at the judges' night. It was on a Tuesday night and the awards night was a Thursday night. So the Joe Condon, who's the science director, never got back to me with the students' names. So I didn't attend awards night because I didn't have anything to give out because I didn't know the names. So anyway, I sent 2 or 3 emails asking for the names, but they're on break. So it's going to have to wait till they get back, I think on Monday. And hopefully I will get the names and I'll send them to Adrian. Adrian will print the certificates. I'll frame them and drop them off at the school. And then that project is done for the year.
I had to bow out because Greg had COVID and I didn't think I had it, but I didn't want to accidentally bring that out of the house. So.
And that was appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
So, Mary, I will just note that I am going to be out of the office March 1st through 6th or 7th.
Okay.
So if you get the names on Monday, definitely just go ahead and send them to me Monday or Tuesday. But after that, I'm going to be out. So you can go ahead and send them to me. I think Rachel actually has access to our Canva account and might also be able to help put those names in there. So maybe if I can volunteer Rachel to help with that, if you can copy her on the email, if you get the names next week, she may be able to help you get those certificates out faster than I can.
Will do. Thank you.
Calendar items.
Yeah, I guess that's calendar item.
I don't have a whole lot to say on this birthday, April 22nd. And this was a good reminder that I need to ask Scavenger if we can do that compost day a little earlier again this year. So I will be in touch with Teresa about that.
Did we decide we had a day for Day in the Park?
Yeah, October 7th.
Okay, putting in my calendar now. Thank you.
Sorry, I did the slides kind of last minute, so I didn't get all these updates from the minutes. Apologies. Make sure they're in there next time. That's all I got on the calendar.
Are we doing anything for Bike to Work Day? I'm not, but is anybody?
I expect that Parks and Rec staff is, but I haven't heard any more about it. I actually haven't heard much about the day yet either.
Keep me informed, and if I can carve out time before work, I will.
Okay.
Good. Chair and member matters.
I love the new pictures. Yay.
Yeah.
Woo.
We all look so handsome.
Is everybody there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Like the housewives of Brisbane with all the blonde hair.
Hey,
Jason, I wish that was blonde, but it's not. It's gray.
Oh, dear. What's next?
All right, next meeting.
March 22nd.
Yes.
In
And
person.
I'm going to be away for that meeting.
Me
Oh,
too.
So Aaron, get prepared to read the Brown statement.
I will be in town. We have a chance of having a in-person quorum because that will be our first
In-person meeting.
My first ever in-person meeting.
Woohoo! We'll let you sit in the hot seat.
You get to chair your first ever in-person meeting by the sounds of it. So
I did notice when council meets, their staff reads all that preamble.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll read it. I was just putting it out there.
Do we have 7 seats up there?
We usually add a couple
we do?
extra
Okay.
chairs.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have 2 extra microphones and we roll a couple chairs up, although it sounds like we'll have 2 people absent, so we won't need to do that next time. So
we'll miss Shauna and Jason?
Yep, I'm out.
Okay.
I haven't eaten. Move to adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
I second that move to adjourn. Thank you, everybody. Thank you
Yes.
all so much for what you do.
Have a good night.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
bye now.